Hello, I'm Jacob Suñol. I work at Abbott. I want to invite you to the React Native EU conference in Wrocław in Poland, September 7 and 8. I will be speaking about the React Native in healthcare. Hope you join me and many other folks, and see you there.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in another The React Native Show podcast. In the past couple weeks, I have recorded an episode with Matt Hargett about the technology and React Native and bringing the worlds of business and technology together. This week, we are continuing this trend. We are continuing this theme. And to help me do that, I invited my friend from Callstack, Ada Gawrysiak, who is our account management lead. Hi, Ada. How are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm doing good. Thank you.
And Ada will help me to introduce and to interview our guest with 20 years of experience with transforming different pharmaceutical and medical device businesses, Jacob Suñol.
Hello.
So, Jacob, how are you? Can you say a few words about yourself? What you do normally? What is your career?
Yeah, sure. So I'm very good. Nice to visit you here at the studio. I'm an engineer as a background. I help companies transform into digital and bring those new technologies there. So I've been in multiple pharma and medical device industries. Also, I started my own business. And what else I can say? I mean, I've been always around React and JavaScript. But I mean, always means for the last, since 2017, before was too early for people to adopt the technology, and before the typical, I mean, I started with Pascal doing robots. So it's kind of something that you will not do an app now, but that's definitely a case. And yeah, so that's, I work at Abbott now. I manage the digital team for the diabetes division, and we build applications on React Native. Mostly to help our patients bring their glucose from the sensor to the app.
Okay, thanks for the introduction. The Pascal thing is a recurring theme on this series, because the last time I did a podcast about technology and business, Matt also started with Pascal. Like I feel like this is the language, like entry language for.
I mean, there was a moment that there was Pascal or nothing at that time, I would say. And C. But like Pascal was more fancy. And I also did courses of PHP. So I was teaching PHP a long time ago. But I'm less proud. I think Pascal is more fancy now, I would say. So
is it? Okay. With that introduction, thanks for this. We will jump into our topic. And our topic for today is React Native at scale in healthcare, in business, in transforming businesses. So the first question that I have for you is, during your work as a CTO and as a director of product development in large organization, have you noticed any recurring challenges that such businesses struggle with, and both as they grow and as they reach the enterprise level?
Yes. Out of my experience, there is always similar challenges. So everything starts with, we want to do more things and we want to scale, and there are scaling problems. Then they want to move into Agile. Agile is kind of the world and how we can do that. And it's not about Scrum and just applying like, I installed Jira, I have Jira right now, I have a license, what else? And then one of the biggest problems always, and it seems like basic, but like all those silos and communications, more you grow the team, more problems they have to talk to each other. And finally, there is always this, but you are using an open source, and what's this? Where is the license where I have to pay for it? So they really struggle on like security and all those constraints that they are not used to move into that direction. And finally, it's about like how you engage with third parties, because you have your team and they have some experience, and how you bring this new talent on board and get you to the next level. So that's kind of recurring always on all the organizations. They have these type of problems.
Yeah. So I think you already touched on this with the open source, right? But like more broader, how does React Native fit into this picture of scaling problems in large organizations?
I mean, on React Native, and that's, I always put the same example. Look, when we were like in the woods and we were trying to kind of feed ourselves, we started taking a stone and breaking, and it was a tool. And with this tool, we improved the tool, and we were able to then get better knives and better tools and do better tasks. And technology is the same. So we talk about Pascal and we talk about React Native. So new tools and better tools to create perfect tasks. So this is kind of the evolution of tooling, and it's not bad one or the other. It just that helps do whatever you want to do in a better piece, and it's part of our kind of, I would say, human evolution on that sense. It's exactly the same. So React Native really is thought to solve those type of problems.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's a right tool for a job, and with better tools, we can solve large problems better.
Yes. So at the end, the tools you use, it will set up the way you work in many cases, and React Native, it really helps to make this happen. And we can deep dive into why React Native, and there are other technologies, but today we are on the React show. So, but the idea behind is React Native, it's hard not to not build components. So it's hard not to separate your code. It's hard not to reuse. So you enforce reusability.
Mm-hmm.
You enforce being able to refresh and see what you are doing. And then you avoid all these problems of, I need to make the build. And in many big corporations, like doing a build process, it's kind of the event of the year. Like I'm doing the build.
Yes.
And it may take 1, 2, 3 weeks. With this, you cannot be agile, because it means I do something and then in 3 weeks, I see the baking process.
Mm-hmm.
And in React, it's refreshed instantly. So you change one button, one color, and you see on your screen. So this helps be super fast. And it's not from a technology because you are fast, it's because it allows you to iterate more times. And that's really one of the strengths of React on that side. And there are other things that we can talk.
Yeah, I think something that you mentioned there, it's like this Conway law, is that the organizational structure will impact your product development, will impact how your product is architectured at low level, because different teams will get different pieces of the implementation and they will like be owner of that piece. And there is the inverse Conway law, which says that the technology that you choose on the low level can impact your organizational structure.
Yeah, so that's definitely the case. So let's put one thing. So imagine that you are working on a technology that all the other people that needs to work in a part of the code, they need to wait for this person to finish.
Yeah.
So these those exist. This happens that then you cannot scale up the teams. You cannot really organize a team. So you end up like putting 40 people into a team or like 50 people or even more. Like, and I've seen crazy things. What happens in React is that each one has their own scope. And it's so powerful being on scope because you focus into one single part. You get deep into this part. So there's people that maybe they are just focusing on the small interaction in a button or like a small window, like kind of the same concept that you treat on the super apps, but just in one single app. And and this helps to split the teams and be independent and work without having to take care of what's going on there. Later, there is integration, obviously, but at least you can start advancing. And with this, you structure the teams differently. And I mean, it's in many cases, things are common sense. So, and everyone knows that, like, you want to organize a dinner. If you organize a dinner with 5 to 6 friends, it's easy. We choose a restaurant, we go there. If you want to organize a wedding with 40 people, like 100 people,
yeah,
not everyone will like, oh, do you want this place or do you want this place? in software development is the same. A team of 8 will like manage, oh, we will do this functionality, this will be the architecture, we will agree on this. A team of 80 people, it will be too much to make the product.
Yeah, and I feel like with number of people at the party or in the team, the problems, the issues, they don't grow linearly with the team size, but almost like exponentially. Like you have to think about all of those other things then if you have the teams this size or wedding size of 150 people as opposed to like dinner for 6.
So definitely. So you need to focus in small tasks, and you can iterate and improve these pieces instead of like focusing on the big picture altogether, and you never reach an agreement. And also from a team dynamics, when you are in a party of 40, most of the people are shy and they don't talk to each other. So they don't voice out. When you're in a small team, in a React team that are around 8 to 10 people, there is this dynamic of everyone can like give their opinion and, oh, I will implement this way, or I will change this part. So just by changing the way you structure the teams, you create this well like behavior inside the team that many people that are more introverts, and I'm an introvert too, so it won't work. It just 40 people, why I need to talk? There are like 39 that can do their own piece. So, and this dynamic, everyone thinks the same, and at the end, no one talks.
This actually leans in very well into my next question. We were talking about collaboration, right? And like talking with each other. So that's like encouraging collaboration. So what are the strategies that you can employ, that you can use to make people work well together?
I mean, when you make the team small, you have this dynamic that you trust each other. You kind of know them. You can spend more time, even in the morning meeting, you can spend more time asking, how are you? If you do with like big teams, this dynamic doesn't get. And with this, it gets the trust. And you cover each other. And that's part of the company culture. Like if you have a small team, you are 8, you cover each other, you take care of each other. And it's like, oh, it's just because we are using React? No, it's not because we are using React, but like all those pieces enforced together to make this new team dynamic. And at the end, it's about communication. So if I trust and I know, for example, Ada, what she's doing today and what she's doing there, she has a struggle, I will jump into helping her. If it's 40 people, I will go home and I don't care because I don't know that. I mean, that's a reality.
Yeah.
It's being a number or like being part of a team and this sentiment of belonging. And
you lose the personal connection when the team grows.
And with personal connection gets better communication. You know exactly what the team is doing. The scope is smaller, so you can deep dive into the problem. So you know exactly what's doing there. It's this specialization that we are all searching, how you be the best into this problem.
And I believe it's worth then thinking how React Native helps here, because then it's also easier communication when everyone is using the same methodologically, the same language. And if you're going native or have different setups, then also it doesn't help communication, right? That people have different languages. They don't know what is happening on Android team. Sometimes it doesn't know what is happening on the iOS side of things. And here, how that helps to have it common.
It's always kind of, imagine that you speak to me in Polish and I speak to you in Spanish. The communication will be tough, and the same happens if you are like writing in Kotlin and I'm writing on Swift, or like on the other way around. Over time I will be able to understand you, but this will not work when you are like multi-platform. I mean, not everything it will be shared between, because there is some always native parts, but at the end we have a common ground. We all advance to the same piece, and this helps this dynamic of being able to share. And it's just a programming language, but it's kind of the same as a language. You're talking to a machine, and I want to share some code. It's easy.
I feel like it's not even a same language. It's like a set of common practices. It's a set of common philosophy. Like you said, components, encapsulation, language as well. But then going to your example with like speaking Polish and speaking Spanish, we can have smaller teams from that 40-person team. We will split them into smaller teams that are function oriented, so that we don't talk about the whole product perspective with all of those people. We can split those teams into smaller teams that are focusing, like you said, on smaller functionality. Let's have one team work on a button, right? And changing the color of the button. And the next team can work on the API communication. And at the same time, they still have the same common language. They can still interact with each other and check each other PRs and stuff like that.
And they have the common ground rules, and that's the important part. So when you don't have these common ground rules, for example, where Ada put this component, and I need to spend like 1 hour searching into multiple hundreds of files where it is. How I will like expose this API? What's the all these parts? It's well set in React Native. So mostly all the project it's set in a way that you know exactly where to find things, how to share, and by sharing and being able to expose your code to other people, more eyes can look and challenge it. So instead of me as a single contributor, like getting this part of code that no one understands, this black box, I can do a pull request and people will understand, because in many cases, if it's not really readable, the pull request, it's kind of magic because you need to go through and it's like, what is this file? What is it making? In React, it's more structured and you have more pieces to get this common ground on top of the language. So I think that's the two main benefits. And I always tend to compare this with language and culture. So if we have the same language and the same culture, we will be able to understand each other and get to the same common ground.
Yeah. So I guess like we can summarize this part by saying that React Native, React, no, maybe not React Native, maybe it is actually. So React and React Native allow us to create teams that can talk with each other, but don't have to because they understand each other PRs. And like it's easier to understand someone's code than to have someone explain your code written in some other language, some other platform, stuff like that. Maybe we can move on from like the React part, from the technology part, to like teams organization or organization. I was going to ask you from your experience, how does React Native facilitate agile development practices in large organizations?
So we touched briefly at the beginning. I think one important piece when we talk about React Native, it's we need to see this as only a tool. But by changing the tools that you are using, it just set up a different ground for the teams and a different culture. And I always and I think that's an important concept. This will not improve your code by default, but it will help create a different team dynamics. If you have a big team that has been using the same technologies and the same stack, same way of working, you put them into a React Native or React, and you change the way that they are building the code. Then suddenly they cannot work in teams of 40 people. In React, it's very weird to have like such a big team. So you can start splitting those teams naturally, and then suddenly those teams starts to be specialized because each one owns some components. And instead of being two different mainstreams of iOS and Android, you have one team that do crafting, one team that do customer interactions, or another one that does anything else. And it just happens naturally because you are specializing by the tool. Feel like it has been always this way. So if you have different tools, you work in a different way. You don't cut the same with a small knife that with a big knife. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. It just puts everyone in a different perspective, and also the brain works differently because you have the file structure different. You can work in parallel. You see more dynamic how the others are doing. merging code is not such a nightmare, or like less, I would say. Depends on
depends on the code.
Yeah, depends on the code, but it helps this way of agility. Just embrace agility, and agility, and that's something that I need to be clear. Like agility, and it's not about like going and putting Scrum, or like, oh, I'm agile, I do sprints, and then you do sprints, like you do like 20 sprints plan, and oh, I already have like my sprint for the year. This is not agility. Agility is how you work on the day to day, and how you can pivot, and how the dynamics between the teams. You may not need like any like SaaS tool to do that. You may just put post-its. The importance is the dynamics between the teams, and how you pivot, and how you all improve like the small pieces together.
I think you tackled here a very important issue that we observe in big enterprise organizations, that sometimes the change comes other way around for the enterprises, and someone says, let's go agile, let's implement safe. And they just follow the structure by the book, not leaving enough space for flexibility. And what I'm hearing from you is to just think about changing perspective and more a mindset of working in agile way, and think about the importance of team setup, the product structure, and that's, I think, in line in how we understand that, to think how agile also fits your goals, fits your desired architecture, and then take the base from it, but make it fit your organization, right?
So and that's the thing. So and now it's less trendy agile, or still maybe is, but like 5-6 years ago, everyone wanted to be agile because they saw that like startups are doing agile and they're creating these amazing innovative products. So they said, oh, they are doing agile, then let's train everyone into agile. They will know what Scrum, what to do a sprint, and everyone will do a sprint. And then suddenly they realize, oh, we are not doing the same products as some of the startups. But agile, it's not the sprint part; it's the culture, the dynamics, and by this, it's kind of the developer experience, and that's an important piece. We really need to take care of the employees, and how is this amazing kind of experience of working on agile? It's about the dynamics. It's about like, I feel that I am part of the team, and I'm empowered by the team, and I can see the others what they are doing. I'm learning, I'm challenging the others, and this is the dynamic of agile. It's not the Scrum. In fact, it's the thing that you care less. It's those tools that helps you like make these dynamics, and people that needs to be super motivated into that.
So I want to propose a challenge, because what you are saying right now, the benefits of React Native in like agile transformations, I can see two parts to this. So one part is the common structure, common set of values, common dictionary. And that doesn't have to be React Native or React. That could be just a huge project in iOS, and everyone then has the same mindset, has the same dictionary, right? So how would you differentiate between the impact of common understanding versus React Native specific to agile transformation?
I mean, and I want to.
And sorry, I don't want to like argue against my favorite technology, which is React Native. I'm just trying to understand how much of that benefit is just impacted by all of us, all of developers using the same technology, regardless if it's React Native or not.
So, and I don't want to go against iOS, or seems like Swift. I've been doing Swift, and I really like to. I think from a React Native perspective, first is like for big companies, it's mostly impossible to only do an iOS app, because you need to do multi-platform. That's by default. So with this in mind, imagine that we are in a perfect world, as you were describing, that there is only, a perfect world, but like there is only iOS development. So you are like shipping versus a React Native. The benefit of multi-platform, you will not have it. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But then on React, you have tons of community-driven plugins, tons of ways and best practices. Also, it's JavaScript. And I mean, it's not the perfect language, but to do some prototyping, it's not. It's easier on that side. You can also bring it into the web and do a React application, check it out, and then put it into native. And it's the same technology, the same developers can write on it. Then the community behind that we've been talking, and hopefully we'll more. You can learn the code that the other people are doing and apply some of those patterns and get into this side. So definitely, I mean, it's not just about like the native or non-native part. It's about the tools, about the community, about the structure, because you get those as small components, the dynamics about the team, and you just get organized and the thinking in a different way.
Okay. I guess we covered the agile transfer. Thanks for answering this. Like, this was really important. You touched on something there in the answer about open source.
Yes.
So let's maybe move into the open source. How large organization can benefit from open sourcing parts of their code, and maybe what are the legal implications of using open source in products such as healthcare products?
So I always start when we talk about open source, and one thing is licensing and the other thing is open source, and this needs to be very clear for everyone. So JavaScript by design is open source because you don't build it, so you can see the source. Kind of the benefit, and each corporation needs to kind of align into their own licensing strategy. That's a different thing. So if it's MIT or other licenses, so that's one thing. But from an open source community, the important piece here is that so nowadays technology is so complex and it goes so fast that you cannot rely only on your own resources to build an app from the ground. So you cannot implement a craft library. You cannot implement like an onboarding or a payment system. You need to bundle things together. And an engineer is someone that picks something that has been built before and improve it over time. And that has been all historically given. So when someone builds a car, they don't invent the wheel. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
they took like some ideas from the wheel, and then maybe they improved. They put like narrow, or they put like different ties, and that's building a car. And it's the same for building an app. So you take this community, and then you build things. And for like this process, if things we want to improve later, if you find that some library is not working correctly, then you don't fix it on your own. You kind of in the car you will call the guy at the car, hey, your wheel is square. I will suggest like put like some round corners on it. And then they fix it, and everyone like gets
corner radius 50%.
Corner radius 50%, and like, and then you get this improvement, and that's this part of the dynamic. On top, this is kind of the basics ground, but if you are like at the end, everyone is attracting talent, and everyone wants the best developers or get to work with them, and by giving back and giving in, you just create this dynamic, and they put you on the spot on like, hey, do you really what you are doing, and they test, and people like to work with people that has similar thinking, and by this dynamic of on the community base, you get this sense of belonging.
On the front of employing best talent, I think it can be also said that when using open source, you are employing the best talent because someone already spent hours and hours polishing that particular library, React Native or like React Navigation or anything like that, paper. And you don't have to employ them directly, but you are using their work. And then if you can give back and maybe improve on that work, maybe add something from yourself, you engage with this person, you engage with the community, and you build this bond that I'm using parts of your code, but I'm also like contributing to it.
Yep. And and that's the case. So you really put in another point that it's important. You use one of those libraries, and they have thousands of stars and thousands of contributors and people that are looking into those eyes. There is no way a company that their main focus it's not technology that they will make so much investment into a library that do only the React navigation. And it's just an example that you take it, but like that's a reality. Why you invest like 100 people, 1,000 people, like improving the navigation of your React, like implementing from ground the React navigation? Your main focus should be the business and the product, the product that you're using, not the navigation.
Yeah, I believe that here we nicely tackle that it would be important for organizations to understand the power of community and that React Native is about community. So if you decide to go that way, then it can really boost your efficiency and save you time because you have a set of tools that are already out there and you can use them. But then sometimes we hear from the organizations also some concerns. So, well, this library will be maintained or for example that they need legal approval to be able to implement certain library. Do you have any experience or example from that perspective?
Yeah, so in organizations I'm working with, there is always this concern of, oh, how we can use this library, what's the license, and who will be the maintainer, and that, but that's historical reason. So in the past, you were licensing a library from another company and you were paying a subscription kind of fee, and they will take care of it over the versions. On the open source community, you use something and maybe the main maintainer took another job or decide that now he goes into Rust, and you don't have anyone. And that's kind of for companies that really invest into this library, then it's kind of, oh, what we can do on that side. And I always say the same, look, there is no problem, because if there is no maintainer on that side, you can always take it and start maintaining it. And a long time ago, I was kind of maintaining one Django library, and I stopped maintaining, and someone else it's maintaining
Took
now.
it over, yeah.
Django is not anymore something, but let's pause for that. But that's not the risk. And I always explain this. So there is dynamic, and definitely this will stop being maintained, but it doesn't really matter. There will be another one that will be maintained, and hopefully if you choose the right libraries, and that's also important, like when you are like taking open source, you need to look into that and like do a bit of due diligence of like what you are using. It's not like, oh, I have this library, it's okay. No, you need to make this exercise, and I think that's important piece. So it's an extra effort to begin with, instead of paying a company that will like put this black box. But from the other side, if you have an issue, you go into the non-black box. You can, there is someone behind. There is always someone behind that you can like dynamically chat and get engaged. You goes into conferences, you meet this person, you grab a drink, hey, how you implemented this? Also, you look into, oh, I will implement this in a different way, or on my case, it doesn't work, or the performance is low. And you create this dynamic. And maybe he will say, oh, no, I don't want like your pull request. But from a generic perspective, people are very nice and they care to each other. I mean, I've never faced a moment that if you approach someone nicely and, hey, I want this, or I want to improve this part, they say, no, I don't care.
Well, it's almost like you already pre-selected the people that are nice, that are giving to the community, because those people already gave, right? They already are engaged in helping others. So it's not that stretch to assume that they want to help. Like,
yeah, and at the same, it's important what Jacob you mentioned, that like once you go out there, you attend some conferences, some meetups, you realize, because sometimes it's not so obvious that you pick this library, and then there are different enterprises also using that. But from GitHub, it's not always obvious who is actually using that library. And then when we start talking with at CallStack, we had like recently similar experience with Repack and library for here, like implementing super apps concept. that once we started talking with people, we realized there are huge enterprises from like finances, fintech, banking, energy, also healthcare, using that concept. And for those companies, it also opened the arms. Okay, maybe it's not an issue if this library will be maintained, because now we see that other companies are also using it. So it's actually backed up, and something they haven't realized before they started talking with other companies in the field.
Yeah, and I think so. We as a human, I mean, we like to talk to each other and like make these interactions and this part of community, and thanks that now COVID is gone and we can like get back to face. You talk to someone that has been like spending nights over nights on the, I mean nights and day and night and day over days and on those libraries, and you get this really dynamic of like, oh, what do you think, and you talk to as peers. This really enrich everyone. It enrich the maintainer, and it enrich the companies per se, and the other developers that are working on those companies. So this is really good from a sharing perspective, and also you upskill everyone, like, because they learned so much about other practices. It's kind of boosted training on like, oh, how he implemented this thing. Oh, that's really nice. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Sharing is caring.
Yeah, I love open source. But during the open source discussion, you said we touched briefly on employing people from community, like giving to the community, giving back, having this image of a company that actually engages with community so that you can attract talent to your company. So I was wondering if you can give us some examples, some strategies of how to scale your internal team in large organization, in healthcare organizations, in your perspective.
So we talk about like we want to scale the team. We are 40 people, based it into years in a technology, and now suddenly there is someone new coming in, and they said, "Oh, we are moving everything into React or React Native," and they say, "Oh gosh." I mean, think about this. Like, oh, I'm here. I'm a writer on a newspaper, and then suddenly they said, "Oh, you've been bought by Polish, and now you will have to write your news in Polish." And I would say, "Oh, now what I have to do? Like, I don't have any learnings and anything. So the only thing I have to do is just go to Ada and say, let's do some close trainings on the learning part." And that happens the same with the community part. So I will bring some people that knows Poly, so some people that knows React Native, and start hiring on that side. But the majority of people will need to learn through, and by using the community and get like the expert that's been already there, that maybe they don't want to work like full time into another product, but they want to kind of advise you. It really helps to make this learning everyone. So the ones that are more on the native side, or other like even other technologies, in the past I used to manage a team that was been implementing in Qt all the applications, and Qt by Qt, like the traditional Qt from the 80s. So, and they end up learning new technologies, and it doesn't really matter. It's just that with this community, bringing these people, you create this dynamic of learning, and it's so rewarding for both sides. Because you may say, no, the person that is kind of been working on React Native doesn't learn anything. I mean, it's not true, because
I disagree.
There is kind of other patterns that they was not used to. They are evolutions, or like from a business perspective, there are things that are used to be in a different way, or like scaling problems. So it's a win-win situation. And the good thing is now this dynamic exists. So there are a lot of people that are dedicated to open source, and they earn their salary just participating into the community. So that's not anymore the case in the past. That was like some people that it's kind of their side job overnight just dropping. So this really helps a lot to bring this talent and this knowledge in-house on full speed.
So I like how you started from example of having a native team, right? iOS, Android, native team, and then trying to embrace new React Native to the project, and then having some external trainings, maybe having some React Native developers coming onto the team and then sharing knowledge. I think that's quite common path to do. And also, like with the sharing knowledge, you said that React Native developers, they don't like to, the perception is that they don't like to learn new things. Actually, I think in React Native teams, the possibilities to learn other things are much greater than in any other technology that I know, because like when you have your team members that are Android native, iOS native, they can give back their knowledge to React Native people, the native knowledge. The React Native people can give back the web JS knowledge to the native people. And all of them also can start figuring out the processes that work on both platforms, the pipelines, like the spectrum of possibilities of knowledge sharing. I think it's greater in this like multi-language team than in any of the like singular language team. Yeah, sorry for the tangent, but like I really like the subject that when I'm a React Native developer, my possibilities are much greater than in any other technology, because I have my hands in so many like different things, technologically speaking.
And it's this concept, and we joke about, but like about traveling. When you travel and you see other cultures and other people that speak other languages, that has other ways of thinking, this diversity is so important for the
Mm-hmm.
teams. And like by bringing people that come from different programming languages, different ways of working, it just creates a better team by design, because everyone thinks differently. And to solve the problem, there is no only one way. And this creates this dynamic naturally. And I think that's why like people likes to travel and visit new cultures and taste the dumplings maybe. But that's a thing. So this this React Native and native, and even like people that has been working on C or like other like low code languages, you create a super good dynamic.
Yeah, I'm gonna use your travel analogy the next time I'm trying to explain why I like doing the React Native. I really like this.
But then when we think about this dynamics, so do you have any, for example, tips and tricks when it comes to effective collaboration in this environment and how to then coordinate the teams to work effectively?
Yes, I mean for me, and I think that's that's very studied. So, and on I will like to kind of think how you measure this, and because at the end, if you cannot measure, you end up like not being able to improve, and that. So on the game theory, there are three things to engage someone on a game, and I really like to compare like with how it's on the work. So for a game, there are only three main things that people focus on. The first thing is to have fun. The second thing is to enter in a flow state quickly. And the second thing is not be have a deception or like be frustration piece. And that also applies to how I push the teams to get into these pieces. If you have fun and you're really enjoying, you learn more and you get there. If you have into the flow, you are just focusing and you get into like this main flow and you don't want to leave and you don't want like to going to do another thing. The exception is like every time that you need to make a deal, for example, that we've been talking, that it takes 2 hours, you lose the flow and you get so disappointed, you go to a coffee and sometimes you even go home. And
Yeah.
and that's the main three things that with this collaboration and this coordination we need to make like all the teams to get into these main three things. Like from a company culture, it's where like we push into that side, really have fun, try to get into the flow as soon as possible, remove all the barriers for all the developers, get engaged with other communities, and not get deceptions. Not have to just, this is not working. I will take me 2 days to make it happen, or like I need to make this build, or like, I have a bug, or I don't have a stack trace. How I have to solve it? So these you bring the community. They have fun. They share other things. They get into this flow, and the deception is lower, because when I have a problem, I ping Stack Overflow, I ping the maintainer, and they will help me solve. And if I have this trust, they will like quickly come back to me. And this is kind of the three ingredients to make this developer experience and like any employee experience really happy and enjoying their life. And at the end, we work so many hours that if you are not really enjoying and you are all day with deceptions and not getting the flow, getting it and out, it doesn't work.
And I think that nicely brings us to another topic that we wanted to discuss. So engaging with third parties, because to allow engineers to have fun, you first need to allow them to grow and have comfortable environments. So we wanted to discuss with you this like mindset of bringing third parties on board, but with the approach, do it for me versus teach me. And bringing this training on board and how to engage third parties in the way that really grows your team.
So and that's part of like this kind of 40, 50 people team versus 8 people team. Like in many in many ways, the way you need to go through is by bring the right talent and train the right talent. But you don't want like to just kind of put more people into it without really making sense of it. And we want people that like you bring the knowledge from the outside, you upskill your teams, and then you have your teams that they really care every day. And that's something that I always push in. I don't want like outsourcing. I really want like people that are engaged, that believe on the product, that believe on what we are doing. In healthcare, it's easy because like really when what you are doing, you really see that you are impacting people's lives.
It really matters.
It really matters. And like this is the dynamic you want, like people that care, like they are looking into one application and they say, oh, maybe I will need to improve this. Or they go to the supermarket and see someone that is using your app, and you are like helping them improve their lives. And that's so impactful. And when you create this with third parties, in many cases, if they are learning and helping you upskill, that's great. If it's just kind of, this is the conflict of interest. If it's just people that like it's an hourly rate kind of thing on like more hours, then you don't get this good dynamic, because the other third party just wants to get more hours. So it doesn't really matter if it's good or bad. When you bring people on board that wants to make like it's on success story, you upskill all the team. And I think that's a dynamic that we need to really break in some organizations. It's about like we want to make everyone better at work and get this better flow, like.
Yeah, I guess it's all about goal setting, right? If the goal is I hire you, you create this particular piece for me, then you will give me this piece of the application. But if I hire you and we together are going to create the best piece possible and you will teach me how to do it on the way, then I can make the next piece myself, maybe with some oversight from your side. And then I can make the third piece myself altogether and maybe also teach some of my other developers of how to do it.
And that's the dynamic. If you don't create how you are describing, what happens is that you end up having people that doesn't know how to do things on top of outsourcing people that will do things. So, and I've been in other organizations that mostly some of the employees were just managing outsourced. They were not really doing the work. And then you have these dependents that you never break. And the people are frustrated because they are not doing things, and the others are really just I need to do more hours. So there is no this care of the product of what you are doing, and the sense of belonging that we were talking about the community. And I think this needs to be clear from the very beginning. What do you want? Like what I want, like how I want to learn, how this is dynamic.
And thinking about long-term goals, right? So having your team really maintain the app, because sometimes in the short term, it may look like bringing software agency may be the faster way because you bring your product faster. When your development exceeding the hiring possibilities, then it's a faster way. But then when thinking more of a software consultancy, you're thinking of where you want to go with that third party. I think that's very much what also we stand for. So how we can enable really the team of the clients that we work with, not really doing the job for them, but doing it together. And I think that's important for also many companies to have in mind the end goal that they want to reach. Because I also know some companies that they started outsourcing and then at the end they woke up and they had like 70 or 80% of the development team actually outsource. And then they start thinking what we can do with it. So then they started training and looking for higher in-house. So sometimes it's better to have it. I think always is better to have it first in mind.
I think this is changing. So I remember like when I started my own business in 2011, it was one of the first like digital health companies. It was not called that way. And at the very beginning, we were like building our own SaaS product. And suddenly we realized that the door to door was super hard. Like we're like super small company going to doctor, do you want to use my online cloud solution? And it was not really on cloud. So it was on soft layer that it's dead already. So it's really like, and we realized that the industry wanted to start getting digitalized. So I started talking to the pharma industry, and it's how I enter into this part. And they were like, oh, that's perfect. You can develop. We don't want the source code. We don't want the data. Can you bring me just one report? And it's how I end up like building this solution for like the industry to be able to create their dashboards and create their technology without they didn't wanted anything, because at that time it was just for a purpose. Like I want the metrics of the report. Now things have shifted. Everyone like it's kind of, oh, we really need to build those resources in house. We need to make a product. It's a product now. It's not anymore like I'm doing a service for something. And I think that's important for everyone, and to get into this mindset. What do you want to do? And also for the developers, when you're hiring, there are people that want to be part of a big thing. And when I interview, they say like, what's your like outsource rate? What, it's a product, or you are part of a marketing, like just a launch of something there? So that's a big difference. And I think that's, I mean, there is everything, it's valid, but like we need to differentiate those pieces.
Now I had two, but now I have three perspectives from for hiring third party. One is upskilling your team because you want your team to grow. The second one is de-risking your project to your stakeholders because you want to invest in something new that your team has never done before. So you employ someone that is expert in their field that can give you assurance that your product will deliver, will work, and will work best. And then the third thing that you just mentioned, which I didn't previously, is that when you are hiring for your internal team, you want to show them that, yes, we have the quality in-house. Yes, we have a training in-house. We have good product. So from those three perspectives, what is your strategy? What is the criteria of choosing that third partner?
So it's super hard to build a new team from scratch when you are like building a new technology, because when you interview the first person that will work into that technology, you say to this person, hey, you will be the first one. There is nothing there. It will be painful. And by the way, your code has a legacy of like 10 years. And enjoy. Like no one will take this job. I mean, maybe some people, I will take it because
I was going to say that sounds incredible, to be honest.
Sounds like a challenge.
Yeah, it sounds like a challenge. But like the reality is that sometimes it's like, oh, where I'm going, I have a nice job in another company where I will like move there. And then you need to convince. But like by bringing like some extra knowledge and have some basis, you get some extra power into the community side, and that's the important dynamic. Until you end up growing, it takes time on that side, and just de-riskify the person that is more the first person. When they're like 10, the dynamic is different, but like the first 10, it's hard to get there. And I think like getting third parties to help on that, and also boost the people that are in house that are eager to learn new things and move there, it just gets this good dynamic to build on top reality. And I think that's important. Like the company, you want to build a new product or like refactor the current product in a new technology, you are not going to say to all the people that are in the company, hey, goodbye, and you take a new one. I mean, there are like some companies that do that, but like that's not like my philosophy or like our philosophy. And care of people, and by caring, you need to bring them to the next level, and you need to train, you need to put the right people, and you need to be transparent to your partner. Say, hey, you are not here for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an engagement of X amount of time. We want to work together to learn these. Those are the challenges that some we know how to solve it in another way. Others, we want your point of view because we've been so deep into that project that we don't know. Like this perspective, help us. And by the way, I'm growing. This is the perspective. There will be opportunities to get there, and I think this is a good beginning to start this kind of a relationship of like, hey, how we work together also for the people that you are onboarding and hiring. Hey, we are like transforming, we are getting there, these people are helping on our side, we have other people that are learning. Nothing is perfect. And then this is the nice challenge to be, because you feel like, oh, I'm part of something big. There is uncertainty. Also, people like, and it's not everything is legacy. So we are building new things. So I will be able to put my opinion and test new stuff that it's
And
coming
I
up.
have support, right? So
Yes.
they know that there's someone that can show them the way. They can ask questions too and can help them just lead the way.
That's a reality. It's really sad to work alone into a problem for days without really finding a solution. And to be fair, like when you have a building problem of a library, you can spend your life there. Like if imagine that you like imagine that you cannot check online for like anyone if there is a build problem on Node, because now your Node version on your laptop has upgraded via Brio, and you have just one that breaks all your libraries. If you are alone there and you are not able to share
Mm-hmm.
with others, this disappointment part that we were talking, and like the flow, it's close to zero because you are all day on the like, oh,
No
it's breaking.
fun there. Yeah.
No fun. That's really no fun. But the disappointment, you really like what I have to do, and like
Yeah.
by bringing like someone, if say, oh no, like I went through this before, so I already spent 10 hours. Just check this part
Yeah.
and you will get there.
And no one is able to debug every single library in your code base. Yeah. I wanted to do a follow up to this. So the question was, how do you pick and choose the right third party? The follow up question to that would be, what are your criteria, KPIs, like milestones to um, to figure out, to check along the way if that third party choice was the right choice, or maybe you don't work well together?
So normally when I choose, and it's same as employees, everything is the same. So I want to see how they are contributing. So I go every candidate, I always check into their GitHub account. If they don't have a GitHub account, for me, I just
Yeah.
cannot evaluate, because like by an interview, I can get soft skills, we can do some technical part, but how is your work? I mean, the same as what we are interviewing a designer, they have like their designs and their portfolio. So a developer, we look into the code, and a partner will look into their code, and we look into how they are doing, how they are structuring. Think about this. So if you are publishing something, normally you want to shine. I mean, you don't publish kind of badly things. So you look into their code, you know what they are doing, like how they are structured. If it's not structured, and this is their public version of themselves, imagine what they do in house.
In private.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that's the thing. That's a basic thing. So you look into the code,
Yeah.
then you try to meet this person face to face, because at the end you need to work. And I always have one single rule when I interview someone, and same for the partners. If you cannot have a drink with this person, a coffee or a beer or whatever, this will not work, because we talk about communication.
Yeah.
there is a lot of stress on like on the day to day. Like there are things that breaks, there are deadlines. You need to be able to say to someone, "Hey, this is not working. Let's go see." And then later, just have dinner or just have fun. And that's the dynamic that we want. Like we want like good code, good structure, clean, that it's sharing to the community, and this personal part. If these two things match together, we have 90% of the job.
Mhm.
Then it's about same objectives. And that's something that you openly share yours, they openly share theirs. And if it's a match, it's a match. If it's not a match, I mean, you you need to be not afraid of saying no. Mhm. Won't work later. And this is something I've learned like so many times the hard way, that someone you kind of met a partner and you say like, oh gosh, I'm not sure. And then not sure says, okay, it doesn't matter. I have no time. I have no more time to search anyone, and you take it. Later, it never works. And that's kind
Mhm.
of,
Yeah.
and that's my internal rule. If I have like this small like thinking that it won't work, is a no for a partner. I mean, for a partner, for someone that you're interviewing, anyone. Like if anyone on my team like has a mm, it's very binary. It's kind of
Yeah.
yes or no, and you do an and you get the result.
I guess what you just said is very much connected with the way of work that we described.
Yes.
We are communicating, we are upskilling, we are working together. If you would be hiring someone to do this one particular work that needs to be a black box, and here are your inputs and here are your outputs, and I know that you are a genius in this particular work, maybe I don't care how well you communicate. I hire you to do just this one thing. But if this is going to be a relationship, and if we are going to communicate on a daily basis with like work environment, it's, from my perspective, it's I'd rather have a very well a person that communicates very well but knows 80% than person that knows 99% but has huge problem with communication.
I mean, I fully agree. I mean, learning a new thing, it's just a skill that it's about hours. So it doesn't matter if you know React Native or nothing. You can learn it in a weekend. Like that, the reality is this one. You will not be like expert. You will have to go more to Stack Overflow to go into some questions. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
The important is to know how to work as a team and this communication part. And that's something that it's so important. There is no problem that one single person can really solve it. I mean, technology is so complex, and the apps that we are doing are so many functionalities, things. There is no one that can know everything or like one black box. So you need like people that really likes to work as a team, and that's important piece. And as a team, internal, external, it doesn't matter, but like a team. So these 80% you really describe very well. Like we don't want like a 99.9 like superstar alone that writes his code and no one else knows how to read it. Like this one
Mhm.
line that he thinks
Yeah.
he's compressing his code and obfuscating. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
but we don't want this.
So I guess what we've discussed until now is like large organizations in general, but I know that you have a lot of experience in medical applications in particular. So I would like to spend the last portion of this episode to maybe talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So medical devices and medical application and pharmaceuticals, those are very heavy, like legal guarded areas that needs to be really very well built, let's say, very insured. So what are the challenges, what are the considerations of building those kind of things in general and in particular with React Native?
So in healthcare and where I like work and it's part of my passion. I think there is an important piece about the risk. So what happens if something fails? What's the implication? And we spend all day measuring this. What's the impact of a bug, or we call it even a defect? So what's this impact? So can we harm someone? So that's kind of the risk. So if you make a mistake in another application into the gaming, and I mean you are playing and it doesn't save, I mean, yeah, it's very disappointing, but nothing happens. So maybe you crash your controller to the window. That could be. In healthcare, what you are doing, it can really impact lives for positive or negative. You need to make sure and really test things will be working the way that you designed to be working. And all the day we spend like, I want to do this. Is this functionality acting as I expect? And then the challenge is as I expect in all the devices, operating systems, places, in all edge cases. So that's kind of how React and we really focus on like how to make sure this is kind of always giving the same result.
Okay. So are you saying that, like, in general, there is a large emphasis on testing then?
Testing, assuring to, I mean, there is always fixes to do. And like you have multiple releases, and I think that's also why we invented the semantic release, because like if you put the 3.1.1, it feels like, oh, it's just a minor fix. But at the end, they are always like doing those fixes. So there is a big emphasis on test automation. There is a big emphasis on like it's not just a pull request. You really read the code and make sure that things are going. When we make a package and we upgrade the package, we really look into it and what is this person going through. And that also reminds me an importance of open sourcing. And I can go through this new release and go through the changes that this person has done into the library, exactly the lines that has added, and evaluate if this will add value to me or maybe will break. So internally, we are always thinking on like, it's not just package update. You go into the package, which is the version, how this will play with the other ones, and then depending on the update, you need to do different type of testings and automate. On our case, it's even more challenging because we have a device, so we have a physical thing. I have it here. So you have a physical thing. So each PLE has a different flavor. Each NFC has a different one. Each phone, they say things and they do others. And I'm not blaming manufacturers, but this is life. I mean, now there is a new iOS version coming. We don't know what will happen. So all these pieces you need to play into tons of libraries that you use, because nowadays maybe you use like you import 300 libraries, 400, doesn't matter. Like there is hundreds of libraries that you need to check, plus the code that you test. You need to automate all these pieces, and React really helps. And it's not just not breaking; it's also performance. If you are like using the app and it takes like 20 seconds to open, it's disappointing. I mean,
Yeah.
not to say other things.
But then what we understand is healthcare, when you look at performance, also that the users here, like because app, it's really about the healthcare. So I guess they also, the difference if it's opens really like 20 seconds on 19, it's not so important that, for example, in different businesses, as for example, we work with betting companies where they're like every second really counts for their business. And how I understand with healthcare, of course, performance is important because it is for everyone nowadays when you want to smoothly open your app. But would that be right to say that then, because it's about your health, you can wait a bit longer to get the right results? And for users, what is also very important to know that the data is secured and that they will get the right results.
So I would say like in React nowadays, and if you do the things correctly, performance, it's enough for any application. We are not talking about like milliseconds or like things that not even the eye can perceive. That's clear. Like if you are like developing a class 3 medical device that has like something that it's a nanosecond that will impact your heartbeat, then in this case you will not develop in React, and you will like do on C, or maybe
Yeah.
you will do an assembler because you're like just getting into that side. But in most of the cases with React Native, you get the right performance and you don't even perceive. And everyone needs to understand like their use case, and that's definitely the case. But for us, we are streaming data real time. I mean, not real time, but like mostly real time. And with React, we get the right flow, and we spend obviously a lot of time because it's a lot of data, and you need to make sure that the app is not clunky and you just don't see your graph like going this way slow. But it's really good. I mean, we don't see a difference between native and non-native, even like the volumes data. And we have some, and the good thing of React also, if there are things that are not performing as you expected, you build your native component on it and you're good to go. And it's not enough in native, you can do it in C.
Yeah, I think it's very important what you tackled here, that React Native really allows you a great performance of the app. And what we sometimes observe, that there are big companies, enterprises coming to us with performance issues. But when we really dig deeper, we find out that it's actually a setup issue. Because when they were making a decision regarding technology, they sometimes didn't go fully within React Native, but invested in a hybrid setup, brownfield approach. And because of the complexity, there are the performance issues that then, when they're thinking what to do with them, as you mentioned, they try native screens, and it's really, really complex app. That brings us back to the topic of really then complexity for developers and very long building time. So I think that nicely really connects everything that we discussed today here together.
I think simplicity is the key, and we need to understand that like if you get like an architecture that it's cumbersome and people like start like mixing technologies and things, and it's crazy complex, and you get there and you don't know where like to, this would okay, they will need to write it in Swift, and the other part it's in React, and the other part it's in another language. Oh, by the way, I have this is in Iconic, and it just charge like something on top. It gets where it gets a disaster, and it happens. I mean, it happens a lot because it's kind of, oh, we have this one, and then we don't want to transition. But like if you step out, and that's the important part, to step out, look what you have, and say, look, this makes no sense. Instead of just investing on like patch over patch over patch, just clean it up and rethink in the React way, or rethink into your and the React way or your other technology. But just step back, what you've learned, go to other best practices, like go to the online and check what other people are doing, and just rethink about like your architecture. And I think that's the role of architects. It's like step out and like look into what's this and how I can piece. I remember like I was in an application a long time ago. I was like, oh, it's very slow. I don't know what's going on. And they were like, oh, but we implemented Redux, and it was not like, it was crazy, like the way that I was sending messages. They have so many subscribers that they have more subscribers into the app that app downloads. I mean, it was like really like, and then it's like, oh, I don't know, like this subscription and Redux doesn't really work. And I said, yes, but like you change one line and it self change like hundreds of things that they are not even visible, and you are enforcing to change it. So those are the things that React can solve. Obviously, you need to know that, but you don't have those problems of performance. And at least, I mean, in the general practice, I would say.
And that's also the mindset that we want to promote. So very much this reverse Conway law. So for the companies to really think about the structure of the software, the structure of architecture, just firstly break down silos and then adjust to your organization, not the other way around. So to really have, then allow for this simplicity and have the end goal in mind, and think about that way.
I think if people are like, as we said, like if you're having fun and you are taking care of the product, you get improvements, and there is always this dynamic. Oh, I think I can do this better. And you take this, and as a team you cover each other, because like you don't want, like, people doesn't want to have a problem on a Saturday night. So if you do the right things over the week, then on the Saturday you have less issues, and that's definitely the case in this dynamic of collaboration, of caring of each other. All these kind of not I will always say, like, naturally solve when, like, you have teams that cares to each other. They all work into making this happen, like performance improve, testing improve, quality of the code improve, happiness inside the company improves, people are more engaged, you have
Mhm.
less rotation, everything gets better just by, like, and I will not say just by one technology, but like making this ecosystem of caring of people that brings this joy of, like, oh, I really want to go to work because now I have a good problem and I'm seeing that I'm impacting millions of people.
Yeah. On the topic still of medical applications of technology, how important it is for you to pick the right technology that is mature? How would you rate the React Native maturity in terms of like um, medical applications on like other applications as well?
That's a really good question. So now, I mean, now React Native, it's kind of trending. Everyone knows. So I would say it's easy. I remember on 2017, I was like, "Oh, let's move into React Native," and people like, but it's only a 5 years technology. Are you crazy? Like, what is React Native? Like, they don't have like 10 years. Where you will find, like, the big question normally is where you will find 10 years of experience of React Native. And I said, there is no one.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 years. I mean, maximum you have like 5 years, and then it's kind of the founder kind of a thing. And nowadays, it's, as a lot of companies are using it, it's easy to choose. But normally for me, when I choose one new technology, and so the reality is that there will be other technologies, and we all know that. Like, React is one thing now. It's one of the things that it's kind of straightforward to use it. New things are coming. It may surpass or they may die. Like, it's kind of the rule, as always. You need to like, normally look into what are the products that are building, how it's supported from a community. So if it's one single person, I will not take the risk. I will take it for my personal website. That's
Yeah.
definitely the case.
Yeah.
But for a big company, I will not take the risk. And then see a bit the projection. I always embrace, like, play around with it. So don't jump into a like 1 year project or 2 years project without really prototyping, and ask your developers how you feel like going through it. So you do one prototype, you talk to the community, go to a few conferences. Now that you can do, YouTube is amazing. There, like, you can learn anything. So chat there, get some performance, compare. Now you even, like, maybe now not, but maybe in a year you can ask ChatGPT how to get one versus the other one, and you will get a nice report. So
Mm-hmm.
get your research, and it needs to fit your problems. And I think that's where, like, here we were talking about, like, what you want to accomplish, what are the tools that you want to make it happen, and then it doesn't matter if it's 1 year old, 5 years old, or like it's 20 years old, about the tool. I mean, you all, and if I have, no, that's serious. Like, they are like super modern knives
Yeah.
and all these. Are you using those, or like you're using the traditional knife?
Yeah, I'm using my favorite knife. I have like probably 2 different knives that I use for all of the things.
But they are like hundreds of different type of shapes.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you may decide, no, I only cook with 2 or I cook with 20. And in the technology is the same. Make your own research and decide. And it's what I do. Like, I always test new things. I spend a lot of time testing in new stuff. I fly a lot, and for example, I downloaded Rust and I played through the plane on Rust in one way, and then I said, "Oh, that's interesting," or "interesting," or like whatever, and you do those prototypes, and that's the important piece of, like, these things. Whatever, like, people are saying on YouTube about, "Oh, this is the best technology, you need to move to this new one." They don't have your problem. Like, you need to see what's your problem, how it's solving.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully what we've been discussing today helps you, like, get into a better kind of thinking on, like, oh, it looks like, oh, we have the similar problem, maybe it will help me. or maybe it's like, oh, I don't have this problem, I have another one, and I want like a pixel perfect. Maybe React is not the thing for you. It's just problem first, what you want to solve, and then see how you solve it.
Yeah, like you were saying about the medical devices that you need like millisecond of delay, then you go into assembly. If you can,
I mean, in my previous life, I was working detecting liver cancers. You don't use React for that.
You're such an impressive man.
you don't use React for that. Like the visualization was React, but like normally you normally use Python. You want like to process a lot of peel images, and on liver cancer, like the tumors are slow progressing, so you cannot use React for that. I mean, you can do JavaScript and you can do it. And someone will like put in the comments, yes, you can do. There is this library, yeah, sure, but like millions of images, high volume, then you solve the problem differently. And that's the thing. So in healthcare, there are so many things that you can do. If you are programming, for example, a valve, you will not like run a React application over there. Or for example, if you are doing a pump and they have their operating system, it makes no sense. So you decide. In some cases, I mean, to be fair, there are people that are experimenting with JavaScript over that, but like it really depends. For the majority of apps on the healthcare, like for the majority of apps that are on a personal phone, like the apps that like more on the medical device that are more customer oriented, if it's on a customer phone or a patient phone, then it's really good. I mean,
if it has a screen, you can put React on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even in the HCP, so in the doctor's office, if they have this screen, you can put React on it, and in some cases you can even like make nice pieces. So it really depends on the dynamic what you want to do. React is very oriented on visual part. So if you are not doing visuals or UI part, then it doesn't work. But you can use some patterns. So that's the case.
I think I would like to end on this. I think it's a really nice wrap. I will briefly summarize what we discussed today. So together with Jacob and Ada, we mix technology and business perspectives on working with React Native in general and in healthcare companies in particular. So we discussed breaking silos, running agile transformations, scaling teams, and working with open source. In short, if you are looking for some tips and tricks of how to tackle organizational issues with React Native, especially in healthcare, so we have just recorded a must-watch for you. Thank you so much, Ada. Thank you so much, Jacob. It's been a pleasure to talking with you. Thank you, everyone who listened to us. And check out more episodes that we have in this series when we mix business and technology in our other series when we talk about React Native in particular. Subscribe to our newsletter, and I hope to see you both on React Native EU 2023 in Wrocław in 2 months, in the beginning of September. Are you coming?
Yeah, sure. I mean, maybe I stay here.
Okay. If you want to discuss some more healthcare organizational topics with Jacob, come to Wrocław in early September for a React Native EU conference. Thank you so much. Bye.